That's actually something that my father told me before I went to college. He was just like, you should write the book. And then once the book is published, you should write the screenplay.
How many books have you written?
I've written 4 books. The 3 that I brought with me today, and a 4th one, which is a much smaller story. It's called Kisses for Tati. It's like a family drama, young woman who just lives under the thumb of her older domineering sister, and she ends up meeting a guy, and she hopes that this guy can be the beginning of something, a relationship or something that can just kind of get her out of this rut that she's in, kind of free her almost. So it's a very small story, very short story. Gosh, I don't even think it's like 100 pages, but that's the 4th book. It's also my most polarizing. People either love it or hate it because of the ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it sort of was it Whatever Happened to Baby Jane type of film? Okay.
Kind of.
Has anyone approached you on wanting to turn one of these books into a film?
No one has. But I have heard some people describe a couple of them as cinematic. But for me, that makes sense considering that a couple of them were began life as screenplays that I adapted, into novel form. But no one has approached me as of yet. But we shall see. I always like to tell managers when I talk to them that I do come with IP. I've got it. So if you're looking to adapt something, I've got some projects for you.
We've been hearing a lot lately that aspiring screenwriters should possibly write a book before they write a screenplay. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a good idea. That's actually something that my father told me before I went to college. He was just like, you should write the book. And then once the book is published, you should write the screenplay. And I resisted that. I don't know why. I don't know why I felt that writing the screenplay, instead of writing the book first and then adapting it. I don't know why I felt that was like more authentic or pure, but that's where my head was at then. But now I would absolutely say, yeah, sure, write the book. Write the book. If it does well, that's great. Get some name recognition. Writing and publishing a book, it certainly establishes you as a writer. That's something that you can carry with you. People are certainly just like, they still ask me, when's the next book coming out? Even though I've said time and time again, I'm actually focusing on screenwriting right now. The next book, who knows? But I think it's definitely a good move. I look at nowadays, authors are doing that. Authors are writing the novels and then they are adapting the novels, as opposed to, another writer. Like I look at someone like Gillian Flynn. She did that, with Gone Girl. And now she's actually writing, screenplays, not adaptations, but, her own. So I think that that's great. So yeah, it's definitely a good move.
Do you think novel writing is easier than screenplays because of the format?
No. It's just different. It's just a different discipline. Writing itself is difficult. Coming up with the story and the characters, developing the characters and everything, it's all hard work. And I really don't think that one is easier than the other. Perhaps screenwriting might take a little less time simply because the format is the format. You know what you have to create, and you have these parameters. Please don't try to go above 110 pages or 120 pages, what have you. Whereas with a novel, you can expound and you can embellish and you can write as much as you want. But they're just different disciplines. I don't think one is more difficult than the other.
Jay, you just mentioned IP. You come with IP and you can tell that to a manager or agent. How important is that for a screenwriter?
Well, and when I said it, I kind of said it jokingly, but also, you know, a little serious. But I do think that it's helpful. You know, we're living in an era where everyone wants to turn everything into a franchise, which, I mean, I guess can be cool. But I feel that if you come to a manager or a producer or someone and you say that I've got something that's already established, right? It's already in a way been vetted. It's got a fan base of some sort. That may make it a bit easier for you. You know, you've come with something that has a track record of success. It's like, oh, okay, you know, this book, you know, has sold relatively well, or, you know, this comic book is critically acclaimed. You created that. Oh, okay. So I think that that can help a writer in a lot of respects. So if you've got the IP, if you've got whatever it is, you know, whether it's a book, comic book, if you're coming with, I don't know, stage play, or maybe if you've created like a small line of toys that you can craft a story around, anything like that. Yeah, I certainly think that that helps.
Have you thought about crafting an original trilogy to any of your works, whether screenplay, novels?
I I haven't, and it's because I'm really not a big fan of sequels. There are exceptions to everything, of course. Um, like I love the Marvel movies. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love that kind of serial storytelling because it reminds me of the comic books. I was into the comic books, but I don't think that everything necessarily needs a sequel or needs to be, you know, created, turned into a trilogy. Having said that, because of, you know, the popularity of franchises, series, things of that nature, I have been toying with the idea of maybe writing a sequel to Orange Mound, my novel Orange Mound. I do have a little idea rattling around in my head for a sequel idea. And if I decide to work on it and it comes out well, then perhaps I might create a third. That's the one kind of property, so to speak, that I have, that I've created, that I've given a little thought to about, like turning into a trilogy or whatever.
Is that because there are so many characters involved? Because it's like a neighborhood of people?
Um, no, because actually, you know, like Orange Mound is a small story. It's got a small cast of characters. Um, it's set in the neighborhood, but it's not about the neighborhood, if that makes sense. But I do see that as kind of a hook because we explored different places that would be familiar to people, you know, who were in Memphis. Um, but yeah, it's not it would just be, you know, another story in kind of like a familiar neighborhood, but not because of number of characters or anything. No, no.
Jay, let's emphasize the fact that you said previously that you don't like sequels, maybe even hate sequels. But let's say I'm a producer and I come to you and I say, I want to make a trilogy of your novel, Orange Mound, which is sort of loosely based on, is it Memphis or Nashville?
Memphis.
Memphis, I'm
Right.
sorry, okay. And this beauty shop and there's different nefarious characters in there and some good, some bad. And I'd like to take that property and turn it into a trilogy.
I mean,
Trust me, Jay. I'm on your
of course,
side.
you know, I trust you. Um, we could certainly have that talk. I look, I want I want to make movies. I want to tell stories. And whereas I don't believe that every story needs a sequel, sure, you know, we can do this. I mean, I'm in it for the art, but I'm also in it for the commerce. I want to make some money, and you know, I understand that this is a business, show business, you know, and if sequels are put on the table and said, hey, you know, let's discuss this, I can at least have the discussion. And if I feel that there is a story that can be told with, you know, these characters that deserves to be expanded, you know, into future installments, then sure, why not? No, I the reason why I have this disdain for sequels is because I feel that a lot of stories are told like they're these contained entities, right? You tell the story and it's done. Most stories are not crafted to be sequelized, and so with the sequel, you're almost trying to force it, and that's where the problem comes in for me. There's a sequel that came out this year, and I'm not going to name it. It wasn't bad. I actually had fun with it, but for me, it ruined the legacy of the original because that story was told so beautifully, and it's such a classic story, such a classic film, that a sequel is unnecessary. And I don't think that the sequel added anything. And, people to this day are still talking about the original. I feel like the sequel came and went. And it doesn't feel like it has the lasting power of the original.
So it's better sometimes to just let great work stand on its own.
Absolutely.
Don't try to belabor it, and then it ends up ruining.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.